Welcome, everybody, to the Candle Enthusiast. I am your host, Shane Carlson, and this is Smell It Sunday, a weekly live stream where I try to go live weekly. Doesn't always work out that way. And we talk about candles, we talk about nostalgia, we talk about the holidays, we talk about the things that make us feel good, home, like we're home and cozy, kind of like how I feel right now. Uh, yes, you might notice that I'm in a different location, not just in a different home, not in my studio, not in my back porch. Uh, I'm in a different home, but I'm also on the other side of the country. Couldn't possibly be further away. Well, I guess I could have been by a couple hundred miles, but I am on the other side of the country, West Coast, more specifically the Seattle area, the suburbs of Seattle, of Washington State. Yeah. And look at this. Look at this space. Um, and yeah, I for those of you who haven't have seen the last few updates, I have I was planning on a cross country trip, and that's exactly what I did. I drove across country, and I really didn't plan it out. I didn't map out a course. I didn't book any hotels in advance, and whew, man, it was a journey. I filmed a bit, not as much as I thought, because I guess I underestimated the exhaustion, the pure exhaustion of not just driving for over 10 hours a day, but just I think it's the consecutive days of driving that really got to me. Almost felt like a dream state. So I figured today, I don't have anything to sniff, smell. There's a few candles lying around, but I just thought I would share a few things about my trip and talk maybe a little bit about what I am planning to do with the channel now that I'm here in Washington State. And also just to check in with you guys. I know a lot of you have sent me very kind messages, emails, through social media. You have reached out, and I just thought it would be a good time, a good Sunday to catch up with one another. First step is always, of course, to pull you guys up so I can see you in the chat area. I see a few of you folks are here, see your comments, but I can't see up close. Let me get my computer. My computer hasn't been plugged in over a week, so I think it's just acting a little slow. Let me pull up the comments here. Hi Shane, I hope you're doing well. Shane made the journey. Great to see you and be hearing you, my friend. We have Adam, huge supporter of this journey that I took across country. A lot of you have been huge supporters, but I just want to, since he's here, I just want to give a quick shout out to Adam. But most of you that I see here have contributed in one way or another to my journey, and I seriously am forever grateful for you guys. Here it is. Here we go. Now I can see you down here. Shane, so glad to see you made it safely. It is a long haul, and I get the dreamlike state, especially in the middle of the country. Yeah, so honestly, the hardest part about driving across country wasn't the driving. It wasn't the actual journey. It was the preparation. I'm forgetting the actual dates, but last Monday was my day that I had set, was my goal to leave New York State. I shipped a bunch of my stuff to Washington, but I wanted to pack kind of the more fragile and larger items in my car. So Monday morning, I kind of, finished things off with my storage unit. I did put a bunch of things in storage, including my candles. And I started packing my car, and I'm like, oh no, my worst fears were realized that I just could not. I have a very small car. I drive a Toyota Yaris, which is probably even smaller than a Prius. And it's not very boxy, it's very round inside. So it's not great for stacking boxes and things like that. I've always had a problem with my car when traveling with a large amount of camera equipment. Even just my camera equipment, it doesn't fit in there great. So Monday was the day I was supposed to leave. I didn't leave. This is not a joke. I didn't leave until Thursday afternoon because that's how long it took me to get my car packed. I mean, I had it packed within a couple hours, but realized I wasn't going to be able to take all of the things I had planned. So I had to start going through my things, shipping things that I'm like, I can't take this with me, taking other things, putting them into additional storage, selling a few things that I had planned to take with me. And it was just an exhausting week of, just like I got to the point where I'm like, I don't even care. I don't care what I bring any point at this point. I need to get on the road. So by the time I left on Thursday, I was a little bit disheartened. I won't lie. And I certainly wasn't in a place where I felt like I was on an adventure and I wanted to film and document everything I was doing. I was saying goodbye to my home for the final time. Uh, this home has been my home for many different chapters of my life. It was the house I was raised in. And, this was like the final goodbye. And I had to, I'm going to be separated from my dog, Elsa, for a long time, saying goodbye to the remaining family that I had in that area. It was just very emotional. But, and then, first day on the road, starts pouring rain. And I'm like, all right, this is fine. I really can't film in the rain. There's really nothing much to see. I really didn't feel like taking any equipment out in the pouring rain. But this rain got so bad. I would imagine it was like right around Ohio that the weather was atrocious. Turns out later that night, when I check into my motel, that I was chasing tornadoes. There ended up not being any tornadoes, but there were tornado watches all over the state. And I'm like, this makes perfect sense. I mean, the wind was so bad, my windshield wiper, it popped off. I lost it. First thing I had to do on Friday morning was to find a Walmart so I could somehow figure out how to put this windshield wiper on. Sounds like it was an easy thing, but I couldn't quite figure it out. But then after that, things started to really become a bit more relaxing. I followed a lot of your guys' advice. I was starting to listen to music that I haven't listened to in a long time, and I was kind of rekindling my joy with the music, and also listening to some books on tape, books that I've already read, but still books that I could kind of relive, because I'm not a book on tape kind of person. I don't have the greatest attention span for that. So I drove through Pennsylvania. I really wanted to drive through Pittsburgh so I could stop off at a couple of George Romero locations. George Romero, for those of you who don't know, is kind of a very important figure in horror cinema. Most of his movies, if not all of his movies, were filmed in the Pittsburgh area, including Night of the Living Dead. Now, one of the things I always wanted to do was stop off at the cemetery for Night of the Living Dead, and it wasn't in the cards, and because it was raining, it wouldn't have worked out. Um, but the second day, I knew I'd be driving through Chicago, which was the home of another one of my favorite film directors, um, John Hughes, and I almost said Howard Hughes, but John Hughes from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, uh, Breakfast Club, Pretty in Pink, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles fame. Uh, and also, he was a director who chose to film not in Hollywood, but in the Midwest. And I just figured, like, what's the one location that I would really want to check out from all of his films? Actually, it wasn't his film. He wrote the film, but it was Home Alone. I stopped off at the Home Alone house. How could you not? It wasn't even that much of a detour to get there. And what an experience that was. It was just the whole town felt like a John Hughes uh, film. I mean, it was just really, this was my first time ever in the Midwest, of course, also Chicago. And it was great. I kind of lost myself during those hours when I was there. And that's when I really started to shake off a lot of kind of the turmoil from the week before. Just want to say thank you so much to Virgil with the super chat. Virgil says it's almost fall season. Just saying. Yeah, uh, it's a good point. It's not only, I guess it's a few days into the summer now, but it seems like every year we're celebrating Halloween earlier and earlier. A lot of the products from all the companies that we support, they're releasing their autumn and Halloween products. So I I'm anticipating getting into that, seeing what's going on. I'm so out of the loop with everything, even Yankee Candle, Bath and Body Works. I'm getting bits and pieces here. Matthew shared uh, a really cool release, apple charcoal from White Barn or Bath and Body Works. Sent me an image, and I'm going to be very excited to get back into a little candle enthusiasm. Jordan asks about whether or not my storage is air conditioned. It is. That was a huge debate for a long time. I was rather going to part with my entire collection or put them in temperature controlled storage. And for a while, I really thought I was going to sell them. I mean, I was emotionally prepared to do so. But, it's like, I don't want to make it sound like I have a lot of candles because if I really were to go through and count the Yankee candles, just the Yankee candles, I probably overestimate how many I have. It's really not as many as I thought, but to sell them individually, it would just take so much time because it's rather you sell them all in big chunks, like sell the whole collection or like three or four sections of the collection to, three or four people, or you sell them individually. Otherwise, you're essentially just giving them away. If you're selling candles for like $10, $15, it's just most of the candles I have are um, they are collectible to certain people, and certain people would very much probably like to have them, but you need allow that time for people to discover those candles. There's no way to like mass advertise that I was selling all my candles. So I figured I put them in storage because I was just not prepared to take months and months to sell them all individually. But you never know what's going to happen. I really don't think I'm going to be taking them across country at any point. It just doesn't make sense. So I might have to find a home for them on the East Coast when I move out of that storage unit and leave them there. I just have to look at the possibilities there. Dale says or asks, will you be checking out any local wineries? That's a great question. Some of you may know, but I don't think a lot of folks are really in touch with how important Washington State is in the wine industry. I think we all know California is the biggest player by far, and Oregon is, it has grown incredibly since, like even just the days of the movie Sideways, from what has happened from the release of that movie to current day, it's just exploded. Not just with the quality, but the variety of grapes that they're growing in the region. It's going to be predominantly Pinot Noir and say Chardonnay for white, but or even Riesling. But Washington State's got a multitude of different climates that are appropriate for different kinds of grapes, different varieties of grapes. There's everything from Rieslings to Chardonnays. A lot of you would see cooler climate rosés. But then up over the mountains on the eastern side of Washington State is kind of like Bordeaux country. We have a lot of Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, Merlot. So as of right now, I don't have any like wine trips planned, but I would love to explore the world of Washington wine. I've had the privilege of tasting a lot of Washington wine. Actually, one of my employers from many years back owned a substantial amount of acres in the Columbia Valley in the Walla Walla regions in Washington State. So I'm very familiar with tasting and evaluating and I don't want to say reviewing wine from Washington. I don't know if I ever really reviewed any wine from Washington State, but it would be great to actually see the vineyards and get in the wineries themselves. And just like what happens with any wine region that you go to, you kind of uh, you you kind of see the larger picture of what's going on once you step into that region and you see, you learn a little bit about the people behind the wine, what they're doing, the history of the property. Um, every corner of the world that's making wine, they have to accommodate for special conditions of the climate to grow their grapes to grow their grapes to to optimize them, but also there's always interesting things to learn inside the winery, what they're doing as well. So I'm going to be more than excited to 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 really dig deep when the time is right for that. Suppose the time is right. This is the season for sure. Boner Jams, super chat. Thank you so much, buddy. It says, good to see you, Shane. Nice pile of sticks behind you, right? Not mine. Beautiful home, also not mine. Looking forward to all the fall candles slowly creeping out. Hope you're doing great. And I hope you're doing great as well. Thank you so much. Again, so good to see you guys' faces. It feels like, I mean, it hasn't really been that long, but I am still in a dream state after this move. Adam says, yeah, tornado chasing. It was a bit crazy. It was as far as the eye can see, from the east to west or whatever it was, west to east in the sky that night. Huge lightning bolts, bolts of lightning. I haven't seen anything in my life as extreme as that. Um, and Stephanie's here. Stephanie also uh, with a big move recently. Let's wish her all the luck with her move. Trying to go back over your comments here. I just want to thank you for all these wonderful words that I'm reading, guys. Thank you so much. Uh, so Amanda says, finally caught you on a live. I usually have to watch them later. Glad you made it safely. Thank you so much. So what is the future here? Let's be honest. Let's get down to, what do they say, brass tacks. You know, like, what am I going to be doing? Am I going to, because I don't start work for quite a bit. And I've been trying to get my head screwed on the past few days, but you know, I'm starting to finally get my bearings of being in a new location. What am I going to be doing? You know, I don't know. Something that's odd about this year than other years. I don't know if it has to do with, I don't know what, let me just say, I've had this strong urge to go to an amusement park or a theme park, Six Flags or something else. You know, I'm a little bit picky when it comes to these sorts of places. I like places that are a bit older, have a little bit more history, or a little bit more quaint. You know, when you go in, everything doesn't seem brand new. Um, you know, one of the places I used to go every summer when I was like a kid and a teenager was in Lake George, Great Escape, which is owned by Six Flags, but it was a park for many decades before, and it just always maintained its kind of old school charm. But weirdly, where I am located right now on the West Coast, there are not a lot of parks. In fact, there's not really anything. There's, you know, there's, excuse me, there's interesting things to do outdoors. There's a lot of festivals and music events, but there's not a lot of parks. I don't know if that has to do with the weather that they have here. I don't know what it is. Like there's, you know, even just Six Flags. You think Pacific Northwest, this would be like an optimal location to have something like that. But there's not. But the bigger thing is, why am I feeling so nostalgic for a park? You know, I never have this feeling. Like I haven't craved to go to something like Six Flags in a long time. I think at some age, I just like, I said to myself, I just can't do these things in the summer anymore. It's just too many people. It's too hot. You know, that's why I love doing like Santa's Village in December, because it's cold, which I love, but it's also in the off season, so it's not super crowded. But I'm feeling it very hard this year. So what are you like? What you know, whether you're watching live, you can throw the in the chats, but in the comments, like, do you guys kind of relate to what I'm saying? Like, do you ever have like those? Like, it's very early to have the summertime blues, but like those summertime blues where you want to actually go out and do something. There's not a lot of parks here, but what are some of the other things that you do to kind of fulfill those summertime cravings? Because if you suggest something and I like it and I do it, that's probably some of the earliest videos that we're going to see on this channel. I'll be taking my camera everywhere I go, um, and but I want to really sink my teeth into summer activities right now, but also things that are relevant to where I am, um, which is maybe like 20 minutes from the Seattle region. Um, Shane, will you come back to, I'm guessing that's New England, not the Nebraska. Will you be coming back to New England for Santa's Village or Yankee Candle Halloween release? If I had to give my best guess at this point, I don't think I'm going to make it. This will be the first year that I won't be at Yankee Candle Village for their Halloween party. I figured this might happen. My solution for that problem was maybe to team up with someone to go to Yankee Candle Village and host a live, exactly almost how I used to do it. I would just kind of walk around, show a little bit in the beginning of the live, then sit down with all the products and just start sharing it. I thought it'd be great to team up with someone where they could host a live and then I could host a live while watching the video and be able to maybe interact with that person who's hosting this primary live, and have a conversation with them. I haven't really thought of it. Hey, if this is something you might be interested in, and are very serious about it, if you're willing to go to the Yankee Candle Village, host a live, and then we'd figure out the details, but somehow uh, I would do a live and tether in that video. How great would that be? I would be able to do a video of the release party without actually being there, and I think it would create a really good content. I'll try to. Doug would be cool, Virgil says, but Doug is out in the Midwest, so I don't think Doug would be able to make it. Brett from Philly Candleman, much closer than Doug is, but I still think, that's quite a drive for Brett. Um, I'm almost would be embarrassed to propose the idea to him because um, I know that would be an enormous amount of work for him to do. But you never know. We'll see. Now, when it comes to Santa's Village, I'm already trying to figure that out. Um, I figured if I flew into Bangor, Maine, or Boston, and drove to New Hampshire at the very, very tail end of November or the first weekend of December, the plane tickets might actually be halfway affordable. And it would also give me enough time to travel and actually film the video, but also edit the video and have it ready before, at least I'm always releasing it like Christmas Day. Last year it was the day after Christmas because I was having uploading issues. Um, but ideally, it's like I want to make these videos so people can be enjoying them during the Christmas season. So I am really going to work on it. It's not just for the channel. I think just deep down in my soul, it's something that I really want to do. I love not just going to the park, but filming. I wouldn't want to go just to go without a camera and just enjoy myself for the day. There's a part of the experience that's enormously enhanced by actually documenting the whole experience and then inevitably being able to share it with you guys. So we'll see how things go. It's going to depend on my work schedule. It's going to depend on, I suppose, a lot of things. It'd be very hard to orchestrate, but especially if the weather's bad, you always have to worry about things like that. But we'll see. We'll see. Thank you for asking, though, because it actually is kind of heavy on my heart. I've been thinking about that. I was actually looking at plane tickets just the other day. Are there any nice lakes? I'm lakes to view in the area. Oh, there's so much. There's so much, I mean, not just lakes, but this is one of the most scenic areas I've ever been able to step foot in. I've traveled to I've spent a lot of time in the Seattle area over the past several years, and I've been able to go and explore a little bit. I did a video down on Pike Street, the original Starbucks location, and I may have done a couple other things. I can't remember, but I've spent a lot of time here. But I really, as I've said, I haven't had a chance to really sink my teeth in. But it's just amazing the beauty of this state, this area. Snoqualmie Falls, for any of you Twin Peaks fans out there, is like 15 minutes away from where I am. And I was so blown away with the falls. If you're not familiar with Twin Peaks, just look that up. Snoqualmie Falls. There's a spa or a right there that I'm actually. I wouldn't want to work in a spa. I'm not qualified to work in a spa, but it's a resort, and it was actually one of the places that I considered applying to when I moved out here. Um, just because I think I would be in love with being surrounded by just nature like that, in such a majestic way every single day. There's so much. I mean, I'm eventually going to share all this with you, but even just the neighborhood that I'm in right now, it is like up on the hill, like rolling hills. It's you can see the neighborhood not by looking like this. You see the neighborhood by looking, in a diagonal direction, and it's just so much different than what I'm used to. Napa Valley, except for the two mountain ranges, like very flat. I was there for a long time. Los Angeles, for the most part, flat. Um, again, with a few exceptions. And then, Apple Country. Well, we know what that's like. But it's just amazing how there's no flat land where I am. And this neighborhood has a series of trails. And when I say series, we're talking like miles and miles of trails to discover. And just that alone, I could imagine. I made a video kind of sort of just for myself last summer. I was just filming for myself, and I was out on these trails and discovered one of the railroad tracks, and it suddenly felt like I was in the movie Stand By Me, which kind of makes sense because although the movie Stand By Me, or the book anyway, takes place in the Northeast, in Maine, the movie was shot in Oregon, if I'm not mistaken. So it did had um, these trails. I would love to be able to come up with a fun concept where I could really utilize these trails and do a little bit more hiking and sightseeing, because that's, especially in the summer, it's not something I've ever really had a chance to do. Um, Great follow-up question here. Would you consider another camping trip? Um, the one in my neighborhood was fun to watch. I'm suppose that was the one in the snow. Yeah, I didn't have a lot of camping equipment, but like what I did have, it wasn't equipment. I mean, it was essentially a bag with like a tent and sleeping bag. I don't have any of that stuff with me, but I suppose it wouldn't be hard to get kind of just a very basic set. I would love to do something like that. I always love the videos that are always somehow atmospheric, but then also a little bit of a challenge, like camping out in the snow. Although it wasn't a ton of snow, it was much less snow, that one video, than what was anticipated. It was still so cold. So cold. And I just hope it showed in the video. But what was shocking about it, I really just utilized pocket warmers, those, things you just rip open, the hot hands, and how efficiently that worked. I really wasn't that uncomfortable for the majority of the 12, 15 hours that I was camping out in the snow. I mean, the stakes weren't that high when I was, if I wanted to walk back home, it would have taken me like 10 minutes. Um, but I thought that I enjoyed doing that video. I felt like it was a challenge. I felt like it was very atmospheric. And yeah, it'd be great to do something like that. In fact, I'm trying to think of where this was. I get so turned around when I think about the cross country trip. I was staying in a lot of, I made the mistake of traveling kind of on a holiday weekend. So Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, they were kind of expensive nights. So during those nights, I had to really find affordable places, and they weren't bad, but they weren't anything really fun to document. But I think it was in western Montana. I was on the highway and I saw a little sign for lodging. There was nothing where I was. Just exits after exit after exit that just said no service, meaning like don't get off because we have nothing for you here unless you're a resident. So I finally saw this lodging sign, but it was very small, and I'm like, I'm not sure if this will work. There was no sign for the actual place. So I got off the exit and I was driving. I'm like, this is not going to happen. There was just nothing. I didn't even see any vehicles. I was just out in the wilderness. But I finally did approach what looked like this abandoned. I don't want to make fun of it because it was quite beautiful, but it looked like an old Wild West saloon. Like it just looked like a saloon from an old Western town, and it was just plopped in the middle of this like meadow. And yeah, it was wooden, and maybe there was like some twinkle lights, but it was just I'm like, wow, this could be really fun, or this could be, you know, quite creepy. And I walk in, and I met the proprietor of this campsite, which I think what they do is they host a lot of folks who are fly fishing, which is something I'm not I know nothing about. And I just said, yeah, I need a place. And with the price the guy quoted me was far less. I mean, it was so affordable. I'm like, are you kidding? Is this it? You know, I'm like this little cabin this guy's gonna put me in. There's no with the price that I was paying, it would have had to have been the scariest, most primitive thing in the world. Turns out it was gorgeous. I mean, the the condition of the inside of this cabin was so beautiful that, I mean, it looked like the paint was fresh, like it was still drying. It was so clean. It was comfortable. The view from my windows were great. The privacy was insane. And the plumbing was great. There was AC. Um, if I had had the energy to actually get my camera and really, I could have filmed a whole video just there. Um, it felt very much like summer camp, like it was really getting me nostalgic for like Camp Crystal Lake, Friday the 13th, or, even movies like Parent Trap, the original, like it really felt like I was in this secluded forest surrounded by a lake. I'm trying to think of the name of the place, and I can't even do that. But although that is several hours away from where I am, I would love to backtrack a bit and do something like that, or find something similar here, which I suppose I could do. Maybe rent a boat or something, break the GoPro out. Stephanie Hall with the super chat. Thank you so much, Stephanie. She said, made it safely to Arizona. proud of us both, as am I. So glad that you made it, and I hope that you're recouping nicely, because arguably that's the hardest part. Adam says there are a lot of aromatic scents in the forest. I think there are probably some different scents comparing a Washington forest to New York forest. Uh, for sure. Visually, it's amazing how just visually, how the forests are so different that it just doesn't even feel the same. Like I feel like I'm in a Yogi Bear cartoon here. Like it's just the trees are so tall and so sharp, and the forest floor. I mean, there's areas, the forest that I've explored here. It really does look like it's right out of a fantasy. There's not a lot of thick growth in areas of the forest floor here. You know, Catskills, Adirondacks, Berkshires, uh, the forest feels to me very condensed. Where at least, like I said, areas that I've explored here, it kind of, first thing I was thinking of, I felt like I was whatever the name of the planet is in Return of the Jedi, where the Ewoks live, right? Like it's kind of looked like Northern California, which makes sense with the redwoods. It's just very, very majestic forest with, the light cutting through the trees, that kind of dust or fog creating the beams. Feels like there should be unicorns. Is Santa still in the car? Santa is not in the car. Santa is chilling out on my book rack upstairs. Uh, he's a little bit emotional these days. He's kind of feels very far from home. He misses Elsa, my dog. Uh, so I meant to put him on the mantle here. And how about this? A mantle. Look at that mantle. That's beautiful stuff right there. I had a mantle in my parents' home, like growing up, but it wasn't like that. It was up higher. And it just didn't make sense to me. Like it was so high that like I need a mantle that I can go and like put my elbow on and put a cup of coffee down on. That's a beautiful mantle right there. Stephanie says she had to pull off the highway twice on her journey due to high winds. One night I spent in a dirt parking lot behind a Shell gas station in Flagstaff. Oh no. Thank goodness I was in an RV to have a place to stay. That is awesome. You've told me numerous times that you were doing the RV thing, but I kind of forgot. I feel like, thank you for bringing that up. That sounds scary, but thankfully you had shelter to protect yourself. But it reminds me of, I feel like I've received a full education in the RV camper Airstream universe from the drive across country. Not at first, but once you kind of get into Wisconsin, I went through Wisconsin, Minnesota, North Dakota, Montana, Idaho, and then into Washington. That whole stretch, I would say every third vehicle on the road is an RV or is towing a camper of some sort. And I don't know. I just like I was observing them and looking at them, and then I was talking to a few folks at different locations where I was stopping off to getting gas. There's this one couple who had an Airstream, and I was just not too long ago watching videos in Airstreams, and like I never really was interested in them or thought they were anything that special. I thought they looked cool, but when I really understood the quality of like Airstreams and the amount of, yeah, the uh, what people do to actually fix them up and to maintain them, and the some of the perks that they have compared to other campers or whatever you want to call it. I feel like I would be an Airstream guy if I ever got something like that, if I were able to ever afford one day. And yeah, it was just, I think I've enjoyed learning about them enough. Again, mostly learning by sight, which is not much at all. But I would love to go to, um, and I saw many along the way, just, I don't know what you call them. It's not a showroom, but a place where I know there's an Airstream place locally, but a place where I could just go see different models and, just be able to look around and explore and feel what it's like to be inside. Because how great would that be to be able to one day own one or even just rent one in the near future and take a trip that way? I think I've always been slightly fascinated with the idea of a trailer, an RV, camper, since I was a child, and see if anyone knows this old relic, the Lucille Ball, Desi Arnaz film. Is it the Long Lost trailer or is it the Long Long trailer? It's one of those two, and I can't remember. But I remember seeing that. Just love this idea of being able to travel and still have your home. And I've always been a fort kind of person. Even as an adult, I love small cabins. I love little places of shelter. The idea of, I don't camp a lot, but the idea of kind of being in a tent for several days, I think that sounds super cozy. Um, my last job that I worked in, I spent so much time moving large items around in um, a ProMaster Ram, like a Dodge Ram van. And I was in this van for so long, and I'm like, I mean, it's like it didn't take long for me to start daydreaming. I'm like, what if I had this on the road? Had some kind of bed that I could break out. Um, I honestly think I could like live, not permanently, but live in a van and travel and do it very comfortably. Like I don't, other than having a shower every day, like I don't really need the comfort of a hotel when I'm filming and working and traveling. It's just, I feel like it's an enormous waste of money when I'm traveling and filming because I'm there in the hotel. I get there, I probably eat, I shower, I fall asleep, and I'm usually in a daze and in the morning until I'm outside. So I don't even remember even the places that I've stayed across country. It's like I kind of get the places mixed up because I was just there for a very short period of time. But doing it in a van, doing it in an RV, maybe not doing it alone to make it a little bit easier, pairing up with another video maker or a traveler of some sort might be in the cards for me in the future. Hope I'm not skipping anyone's comments. I'm very self-conscious about doing that. Some people hope they don't assume that I'm ignoring them. Vegan for Animals says, glad you've had a safe trip across the country. Enjoy the new scenery and experiences. Thank you so much. How were the gas prices along the way? Asked Dale. Here's the thing. Gas prices, I mean, it's not cheap, but the average price was like $3.60 all the way across country. Honestly, it wasn't much more than that, the highest, and it wasn't much lower than that. However, once you get not just into Washington, but it seems like, when you're west of the Cascade Mountains, like in town, the gas is $5 and like 10 cents in some of these gas stations. I'm like, what happened? Again, that's Washington for you, but oh man, I was not complaining about gas the entire way, but of course when I get to my final destination, it's a fortune. And the thing is, I'm like, what happens to the price here when gas really is at a nationwide high? Very, very crazy. Makes me happy that I drive the very small car that I drive because that thing is a champ. Um, that car, very small gas tank, but it can drive on a full tank of gas for an incredibly long way. Um, Tiffany, I think Tiffany's asking about, am I going to be doing edited videos or just live streams? I love doing the live streams, but I got to figure something out because, we've talked about this before. I've mentioned this before. I think there's people who find my channel, a lot of the videos I did probably years ago, they subscribe, I can tell by the statistics every month, they must maybe binge watch a lot of videos, get really into the channel because I can see a lot of activity, especially around like the holiday seasons. But there's an enormous drop off every time, a drop off in subscriptions, not like view time, but subscriptions every time I host a live video. I think people who find the channel on a whim and watch my edited videos are so fond of that. And because I primarily have been just doing live videos for a long while now, they don't like it. So I gain subscribers and I lose them. So years ago, what I did was I created a second channel for just live streams, but I was putting out videos seldomly, so seldomly. I could probably phrase that a different way. That I just stopped, and like whenever I do like a large live stream, like at the Yankee Candle Village for Halloween, I don't want anyone to miss it because it's on a second channel. But eventually, I think that live streams like the one you're watching now will have to be in a different place. Just because um, I think like, with any YouTube channel, I would kind of be upset if, the YouTube channels that I watch, if I saw, oh, there's a new video, oh, but it's another live. And if I'm not into a live from that particular channel, mm, it's got to be frustrating. And to be getting notifications week after week that there's a new video and there's nothing that you want to watch, I think it does discourage people. So, there is truth to that with YouTube, that consistency is really something if you want the statistics to work in your favor. Consistency is very important. So yes, I will be doing edited videos. I'm just soul searching right now because I don't do the videos for profit. I don't want, like, to me, making videos has never been how popular, how famous could I get, obviously, right? Because I don't I don't think I've ever really pushed those buttons. I want people to organically find my channel, but I'm not trying to find topical things to talk about. I'm not trying to, I don't really pepper in any kind of clickbait in my thumbnails or in my titles and description of the videos. I've always thrived with my channel um, when I want to make something and I really feel it in my heart. And like, this is what I want to do right now. Like, I'm not being forced to do this. I'm like, the season is not dictating that this is what I should do, or the numbers of my channel says I should make more videos like this. I've never really been influenced by that. I wanted to make videos that I would want to show my friends or my family, or videos that I would want to make that I could go back and rewatch again. Ever since I was a kid, this might sound ridiculous to hearing a grown man talk about what he used to do as a kid and kind of talk highly about it. But when I was a kid, my brothers and I, we would just we'd rather, if we were young enough, we would kind of take our father's Panasonic camcorder without permission, and we would make what we called skits. I don't think we really were making skits. What we were doing was we were just filming footage of things that we were doing. We were vlogging before the whole vlog thing existed. Um, there was no avenue to share our videos. And they weren't necessarily just home videos either, because we were editing them, which is odd, right? For like very young kids to have that sensibility of like, well, this needs to be edited, or like, you can't ruin this shot. This shot we looked at it in a cinematic way. And no matter how old I get, when it comes to video photography, I'm actually looking back to my 4, 5, 6, 7-year old self, thinking about, well, what was I doing back then? Because what I was doing back then, I really enjoyed. So whatever it was was doing then, I should be doing now. It's an odd thing. I understand that. I don't think I've really learned that much along the way. I think I've always been a person who's had a video camera at their disposal. And I've always filmed, no matter who was watching. And most of the time, no one was watching. It was really just for myself. But home movies, documenting the holidays, documenting Halloween, documenting Christmas, documenting vacations, they weren't just home movies. Like, to me, in many ways, they were almost better than the actual memories. That might sound sad, but better in that I knew I was going to relive these moments on video over and over and over again. Still to this day, one of my favorite things to do during the holiday season is to break out home movies and watch these videos that I created, my brother and I created, who my dad created. And there's humor in them, there's creativity, there's there's always interesting editing and fun music. And whatever I do when I go out and make videos, I don't know what to call it. It's certainly not documentary filmmaking. It's not going out and vlogging. I just don't feel like it is. Whatever I'm doing is similar to what I did as a kid. And the more fun I have while making a video, the more enjoyment I get from it is when I'm doing it because it feels natural, it feels right. Hence why I don't really enjoy doing videos that the numbers on YouTube say I should be doing, because then it feels like work. So when I say that I'm soul searching right now, is that I need to find an avenue where I can be constantly picking up my camera on a regular basis and filming, but make sure that it's coming from a place that is genuinely excited to actually start creating. If it feels forced, if it feels phony, it's going to feel that way to you guys. And this is not the first time I've been in this situation. The reasons why I kind of disappear for long periods of time is because I'm like anyone else. I get really busy, but also because I'm uncertain about what to film. It was I realized very quick years ago when I started doing candle videos, I'm like, wow, people are actually watching these things. And I realized I'm like, oh man, like, if I'm making these and people are watching them and they're waiting for new videos, I was afraid it was going to feel like work. And yeah, I think it's smart to treat it like work. If you really want to raise revenue and earn money through YouTube, that makes perfect sense. But that's never really what I wanted to do with YouTube. You know, you never know what will happen. It'd be great to do YouTube full time if I was in a situation like that. But what am I trying to say? Yeah, I mean, I think when I feel like people are waiting for a video to be made that it's not in my heart to make, it's a bad combination for me because I'm a flawed artist in many ways. I mean, even calling myself an artist, sometimes I feel like I'm being a hack. But I flawed in that like I'm not good at producing something that is forced. Um, yeah, so I need to kind of find a niche, a niche, an avenue, a genre of videos that will be kind of the next chapter of this channel. We'll see what happens. Stephanie was saying, has just said, I was watching all the Yankee Village live streams the other day. I just love those videos. Those are always fun, doing a live video at the Yankee Candle Village, because there's a spontaneity, there's an improvisation that has to be done. And, you know, you, no matter if you find a quiet spot or not, you feel like you're being watched by so many people when you're there, which creates this nervous energy. I never usually go back and watch live streams, but I have obviously, I'm sure, well over 100, if not hundreds, of hours racked up of live videos. And yeah, I mean, I have some wild memories of some of the live videos that I've done, trying to keep a straight face, being nervous, being embarrassed, making sure that I have internet connection. Dale says, your videos are full of great heart and passion for what you are filming. They are terrific. Thank you so much, Dale, for saying that. Dale's a great guy, isn't he? I love that guy. Um, um, and Tiffany, yeah, we touched on this, but you might have missed it. Are you still going to be filming the Halloween party at Yankee Candle Village? So no, I won't be there, but I'm playing with options, whether to do it remotely somehow, or I don't know, maybe there's a different way to celebrate it. I mean, there are Yankee candles all over the country, right? So maybe it just won't be at the Yankee Candle Village. Um, our family, huge shout out to our family. What a fine folks. I don't know who I'm referring to. I guess it is an entire family, but they've shared so much kindness with me. So glad to see you. What did they have to say? They say, hey, Shane, it's Emma and Jace. Jace? I'm bad at pronunciations, guys. In Front Range. Glad to able to pop in for a bit. Always look forward to your content. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate all you guys. Stephanie says, last live you did, I was still in Nebraska. Watching this today with my candle enthusiast friends, I feel like I'm finally home. I'm home finally. Thank you, Shane, for the live. That's a wonderful thing to say. Thank you so much. How about a couple questions? You guys have been throwing questions out to me. Um, uh, and I'm gonna wait for if you guys have any questions that pop up. You've been asking them, but I'm kind of skimming through the comments here. I'm seeing one from um, pour me a cup of pour me a cuppa. Or pour me a cup of Pennsylvania, maybe? I don't know. Virgil, did you see the teaser for Kringle's Witch's Cauldron? The label is amazing, and I can't wait. I haven't seen it. I love the idea that they're changing the label, though. I've talked about it numerous times, but I mean, here's the thing. If you're not changing a label every year, especially if it's a limited edition candle, a candle that you can only buy a certain time of year, if you're not changing the label, how are you ever really going to attract collectors, right? Now, let's say it's 2022, it's last Halloween season, and I buy a Witch's Cauldron candle. I buy 5 Witch's Cauldron candles, and throughout the year, I burn 2. I burn 1 during Halloween and maybe 1 during the winter. Now I have 3 left. Now it's 2023 and Witch's Cauldron is back on the shelves and I can buy it. Well, I still have 3. Now, most people fall into this category. They're like, well, I don't need any more. I still have some. Most people don't buy 5 at one time. But let's say you bought 2. You burned 1, you still have 1 extra. Even then, you don't need to buy 1 for 2023. What I don't think candle companies are doing to their full extent is realizing the life and the habits of collectors. Collectors, what do you do to a candle during consecutive years, like a yearly release? What do you do to make them want to buy it regardless if they still have one that's unlit on the shelves? If you change the label, if you change something about it, then it's suddenly, oh, this isn't just Witch's Cauldron. This is Witch's Cauldron 2022, which is different from Witch's Cauldron 2023. It smells exactly the same, but for a collector like me, I have, like I said, every release of Witch's Cauldron throughout the years. And the beauty there is 90% of the time, Yankee Candle throughout those years was changing the format, the label, the size, something about Witch's. If I'm saying Witch's Cauldron, I apologize. Witch's Brew, they're changing it every year so that even though if I have a few left over from the year before, or if I have, like I do with Witch's Brew, I have like over 30 different Witch's Brew candles. I still buy it every year because to me, it's the candle from that year, which belongs in my collection. Long story short, that yeah, if Kringle Candle, which they don't seem to do, they don't change the label every year and create some fun gimmick to make the collecting fun, then people are just not going to buy the candles that they haven't burned. Good example would be 2019. Kringle Candle re-released their retired Halloween scents, but they also released a whole bunch of other ones. So what happened was I made a huge purchase in 2019. I bought almost every candle that was available during their pre-sale. But then in 2020, they re-released a lot of the candles from the previous year. They had some new ones. What did I do? I just bought the new ones. I didn't buy all of the candles I already had because they looked exactly the same. Now, if, like I said, they could do something episodic with these candles or some fun gimmick, then I think collectors would really get involved in buying them every year. So as a consumer, I'm kind of excited. I'm kind of happy that, let's say Kringle Candle doesn't change them every year because I know I'm a collector at heart. And if they change them every year, I would want to buy them every year. Even though, I have tons of the same fragrances on my shelves. But as if I was working in the industry, I would want to cater to the people who don't just burn, but also collect, and people who, like myself, like to put these candles up on their shelves, and just seeing them and being able to pop the lid and sniff them for a few seconds throughout the year, or even just during the Halloween season. To, that I want to cater to them, because I don't always have to burn candles to enjoy them. In fact, my whole Yankee Candle collection, like my permanent collection, I don't burn those candles, but they still bring me so much joy to be able to navigate through them and open them up and smell them and compare different years, or compare similar fragrances, or numerous different exercises, or just to be able to escape by smelling a candle for a few seconds, or to be able to sit down with a bunch of them and do a video and rediscover them. Or the best thing is, and I did that here when I came out to Washington, I brought a bunch of candles with me. Not as many as I would have wanted, but just a bunch of candles that I wanted to give out as gifts. And I didn't want them to sit in storage or just to throw them away. So I brought as many as I could. And I was here with Rebekah and her family. And what we did is we sat down and we smelled all of these candles together. And it was just so much fun. Like, we all picked our favorites. We all talked about which candles reminded us of what, certain memories, different times of the year. It's really fun to do, to have a candle library. Not just candles that you're going to burn, but actually, a library. And all of that is simply to say that I think it would be a smart thing to do for Kringle to really switch it up, to change the aesthetics of their Halloween candles this year. And get a different label on there, or change it up in a different way, different vessel. I don't think a lot of people would like that. I think a lot of people like consistency in the vessels. But I don't know. What else could they do? Write that in the comments. Mick Kittredge checks out these live streams every now and then, so leave him a message in the comments. What's a good way to make a candle, same fragrance year to year, but to make it distinctly different for every year? Like, what's a good way to make it different? What's a good way to make someone buy a candle that they already have because they want this year's version? On your next Santa's Village video, will you open with a conversation with Rudolph? I always usually open up the video with a conversation with Rudolph. I don't know if you noticed last year's video of Santa's Village. I'm going to pat myself in the back here, and it's going to seem embarrassing for the reason why I'm patting myself in the back. But I got to Santa's Village last year. The fine folks at Santa's Village, we always orchestrate these days. In the early days, I didn't, but like these days, I always give them a call, let them know what time I'm coming up. So I meet with them and just check in. They're fantastic people. So I did that when I got there last year. I met with them, but then I started filming. And the first thing I did, like I usually do, is I go to Rudolph in front of the park. It's kind of an animated character, but it's voiced by a real person. Rudolph is the real person. And I was just talking to Rudolph, and Rudolph just like suddenly just dropped my name. I didn't introduce myself as Shane. And I'm like, Rudolph knows my name. Like, it's amazing how the small things in life will bring you so much joy. And in that moment, I felt so cool that Rudolph knew my name. I think Rudolph said, Shane, you're going to have so much fun today. And I'm like, yeah, Rudolph. Yeah, I am going to have so much fun today. Thank you. Bath and Body Works knows about changing labels. They change labels during the same season, says Virgil. Yeah. That's always complicated when there's multiple versions and you don't know what to buy. It gets to a point where it becomes painful for the collector too. Why don't people collect Bath and Body Works? This is a serious question and conversation I have all the time. What is it? Why there's so many people who collect Yankee candles, and yet I can't name anyone, maybe other than Bren from YouTube, who actually has like a retrospective, an actual collection of Bath and Body Works candles. What is the fundamental difference? Why? I mean, a lot of people go to Bath and Body Works and they buy like 6 of the same candle, but they burn them all, right? They maybe they'll save one to burn at a later date, but no one's actually like displaying or saving candles from earlier years. No one looks at an old Bath and Body Works candle as something valuable or collectible. If I had like a 1990s, a late 1990s Harry Slacken Bath and Body Works candle, and I sold it on eBay, I don't think anybody would want it. They would be like, "That's an old candle. Why would I buy that?" But if I had a late 90s, very unique Yankee candle, there's collectors all over the world, especially in like the UK or just Europe in general, where there's the collectors. They're serious about their Yankee Candle collections, and they will pay top dollar if they're looking for a candle. What is the difference? I'm asking. Leave that in the comments or put it in the chat area. Virgil says this. He says, "I'm curious how all the new 100% soy candles I've been collecting recently will look in about 5 years compared to the paraffin ones." He's speaking about, I believe, Kringle Candles Halloweens and their other candles. They've kind of moved. I don't know what the percentage is. The percentage is of their new candles being soy wax. I question that too. I mean, soy wax is great. I think if you're going to buy a candle and you're conscious about your health, you're conscious about the soot in your home, there's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of pluses and minuses to different wax varieties. I will say this, though. Virgil will know. I think Virgil has purchased a few of my older Kringle candles, but just a week ago, I put one of my very early Witch's Cauldrons. It was a 2011 Witch's Cauldron from Kringle Candle and others, not just the Witch's Cauldron, but I put them into storage. And there's a few of them that I did put up on eBay to sell, and I photographed the surface of the wax, the brightness of the wax, the whiteness of the wax, the lack of blemishes on the wax, the quality and the freshness of the fragrances of these candles that are over 10 years old now, was beyond any old candle, like the aging of any candle I've ever experienced. There's not a lot of candle companies that are incredibly old. And old enough where you can go back in time and visit these old candles to see how well they've aged. But let's just say Yankee Candle, even in just a 10-year period, if a Yankee Candle is 10 years old, it's going to range from fragrances, like how well they hold up or how not well they hold up. But for the most part, if a Yankee Candle is 10 years old, there's no question about it. There's just, things just become a little less tight, little disjointed. There's lingering nuances that just kind of maybe don't feel right. Doesn't make them any less collectible. And sometimes aging candles can be really fun to see how they change. But my point is, a 10-year-old Yankee Candle, you just know it's 10 years old. I'm saying this wholeheartedly. The Witch's Cauldron, the Wolf's Bane, the Kringle Corn or the Candy Corn fragrance from Kringle Candle, all from 2011, I'll throw in Fright Night too. They smelled so fresh that if you told me that they were poured several days before, I would have no basis to say anything but, yeah, well, I agree. So my point is, I don't know how well those Kringle candles will age, the new soy wax candles, because soy is not. In many ways, I could be wrong about the quality in 10 years' time, but just fundamentally, it's not as durable as paraffin. It's not as stable as paraffin. Um, my point was to say that, uh, you know, I feel like Kringle had a really great thing going on with paraffin and wax. And it's tough because you want to stay on top of the times. You want to be making healthy choices as a candle company, right? You want to be doing things with people's health in mind. But, I was never really concerned. I never, as big of a candle collector as I was never, I was never burning candles to a point where I'm like, this is unhealthy. I am breathing way too much of these candles that I'm burning. I was a very casual burner. I wouldn't burn a candle all day long. I'd burn a candle for at most probably 4 hours, um, and not on consecutive days. And I always keep my living area well ventilated and keeping the air moving around. So I could be wrong, and maybe it could be a concern to my health to be burning paraffin candles, but I was never worried about it. I'm not to the point where I'm like, I need a wax alternative that's better for my health. So I just wonder if moving from paraffin wax, the industry, moving from paraffin wax to soy, if it will change, at least change the game for collectors. Um, because if 5 years rolls by, 6 years rolls by, and the soy candles don't are just not holding up together at all, or they're just whether the fragrance is lost, or maybe if the wax is doing weird things like falling apart or crumbling, you wonder if that will prevent collectors. And then if they ever do go back to paraffin, there's going to be a pocket of time where like, oh, this was the era of soy wax. So I don't know. It's a good conversation. It's something, if you're really interested in the candle industry, and if you're interested and are interested in collecting, or if you are a collector, I think the candle industry needs your opinion. They need to know what you think, because I think a lot of people are just going, making soy candles by default, or transitioning because they feel like it's the right thing to do. Doug from Spooky Villages, my friend, my buddy. I was thinking about you, Doug, just this morning. You see my guitar over here, one of my guitars. And so glad to see you. And I was thinking about you when I was driving across country. I'm like, I could really scare Doug right now if I just popped in. um, great to see you. I was just thinking about it. I was talking to Rebekah about how, and I share it on whenever I do these lives too, because I'm so nostalgic for it. Like Anthony from Candle Cafe, and Brett from Philly Candleman, Doug from Spooky Villages, Hauling Wax, and myself, like, I don't know. There was just this period of time where we would chat candles, and I don't know. I feel so nostalgic for those times. And it wasn't just about candles, but it was about other hobbies, and I feel like it was a very fun group of guys, and maybe one day. I know we always say it, and I know Doug has partnered up with Brett for I think many, if not just at least several live streams. But I'd love to kind of get one of those conversations that we used to have on like a podcast, because I think some of those conversations that we had, although we probably wouldn't think so, the guys who were having that conversation, I think some of those conversations would have been gold for a lot of our viewers, to really have our opinions go head to head when it comes to not just candles, but the holidays and other, like I said, other hobbies, movies, things of that nature. I would love to be able to orchestrate um, some kind of collaboration there. Yeah, and Doug's saying we should do another one of those for the Halloween season. Absolutely. I mean, I am down. I am down. As long as I'm not the one hosting, because my luck, I will screw it up. Um, Doug says it was the good old days on the YouTube. It was a lot of fun. It certainly was. And look at this. Virgil says I discovered Shane through Doug's Spooky Villages. Check it out. I'd love to hear those kinds of things. And Brett or Doug will host. Let's do it. Let's do it. You guys just let me know. I'm all in. Swing over to Spooky Villages. I haven't been able to keep on top of the YouTube world at all, but I know Doug is up to really fun things. I kind of get like a snippet um, of what he's doing. I'm a Patreon supporter, so I get his updates of everything, all the fun things he's up to, emailed to me, and also, just on social media, kind of get little snippets of what he's up to. Swing over to Spooky Villages, because, yeah, it's spooky. It is. It's spooky all year long over there. And Doug is an incredible guy. Stephanie says, speaking of collaborations, I still have some of the Witch City Wicks candles you did together. Oh my God, it just feels so long ago that I can't even remember some of the things that I'm trying to remember what those were. I remember, yeah, I mean, I remember there was a lot of bonding with Doug and others over Witch City Wicks. It was just, I think, right when like Doug, Brett, myself, Anthony, I think, was around making videos a bit longer than all of us. But this was right around the time in YouTube where like Witch City Wicks really was at a ground zero kind of point, at least when it came to online sales. And I think especially Doug and myself, we were just very fond of what Witch City Wicks was doing. I think for me, it was all about the Sleepy Hollow candle. For Doug, it was all about the All Hallows Eve candle. But either way, it was an outlet to so much excitement. I mean, I remember those years. I talk about like it was years and years and years ago. It wasn't, but I remember like being a summer day and like a weekend, and we'd be chatting and talking about like these are all the pre-orders I'm doing, or these are the companies who are sending us promotional candles. Like there was just so many Halloween candles coming to us, or at least we were experiencing them through each other. And it was so much fun. I mean, it was like it was legitimately Halloween all summer long back in those days. Very cool. I'll have to go back and actually see. I remember Anthony and I were because Anthony and I were actually quite close geographically, which can't be said with Brett and Doug. We're spread out over the country, and what Anthony and I were going to do, I'm not a huge blueberry guy, especially a blueberry candle guy, But because I approached Anthony with the concept of doing a blueberry themed collaboration, it sounds so ridiculous to say it now, but like this was my best idea. I'm like, Anthony, let's do a blueberry Yankee Candle video where we would get some very scenic shots, maybe a little bit of comedy, a little bit of just not, on video fun of us going blueberry picking in June. But then what I did was I collected and I mean this, every single blueberry candle to the best of my knowledge in the history of Yankee Candle. I think it came to about 37 blueberry fragrances. If it had blueberry in the title, not in the description, not in the fragrance notes, but if it had blueberry in the title, or if it really referred to blueberry, like if it was on the pictured on the label, I had that candle, and I wanted to do a video with Auntie where we're going to go through these 37 candles throughout the history of Yankee Candle. And the video never got made, and I still have 37 of these blueberry candles. And I have to admit, a good blueberry candle is awesome, but let's face it, most blueberry candles, what's a friendly way of saying it? They maybe smell good at first, but become annoyingly artificial after a while. So what do I do with those candles? Some of them are actually very rare. And yeah, I think I may have done a live where I shared them all at some point. I bought a Witch City Wicks Sleepy Hollow candle based on your recommendation. I still have it, says Janelle. Fantastic. So when you say you still have it, have you not burned all the way through it? Have you just not burned it at all? Or have you bought others but kept that first one? I'm interested because I'd love to know what other people do with their candles. I was quite shocked when I was packing and planning on my move to go through all of my Witch City Wicks candles to see, like, I thought maybe I had like 15 or 20, maybe 25. I had a lot of Witch City Wicks candles, and most of them, I mean, I burned a lot, but I probably threw out those jars because I finished them. But the ones that were in my collection, honestly, I think maybe one was lit. And I remember lighting it, and it was for a video. But I had so many Witch City Wicks candles. I'm like, this is kind of embarrassing. Like it's one thing to have to collect them, but I didn't even realize how many I had accumulated throughout the years. Now, keep in mind, a lot of them were gifted to me, not by Witch City Wicks, but by some of you folks for the purposes of video making. And then Liz, the proprietor of Witch City Wicks, would frequently send me like a box of new products every year, the Halloween collection or the Christmas collection or the like Valentine's Day collection would come out. And she'd just send me so that if I was up to making a video on the candles, I had them. And a lot of those went into my collection. But I unfortunately, the ones that I didn't sell, some of you purchased some very important. The Virgil is one of them. Some very important Witch City Wicks candles, like ones that I actually used in my videos or very early experiments with Witch City Wicks. They have new homes. You bought them and helped support the channel, helped support my move across country. But a lot of them actually just went into storage. And I wanted to bring them to Washington and to be able to finally burn some of the ones that I had never burned, only sniffed. But it just wasn't in the cards. I just didn't have enough space in the car. And I'm really kicking myself now because I brought a lot of like Bath and Body Works candles because these were ones I just wanted to give away and burn here in this beautiful new home. Or it's not a new home, but it's new for me. But I took about 75% of the candles that I had packed and I put them right into storage. Virgil, another super chat, buddy. What incredible guy. Now, I want to know what I've been so out of out of touch with the Virgil. I know Virgil, if you've been watching these live streams, Virgil is a candle maker, a wax mixologist. He sent us a bunch of products and we talked about those fragrances. I've sniffed those. Some of you won giveaways of his candles. But Virgil, he told me that he was taking it to the next level, that maybe he was starting a startup. But I haven't really been able to absorb a lot of the details because my life has been in such a whirlwind. But I would love to hear what you're up to. And please, Virgil, if there's anything you want to link up to promote what you're doing, your artistic endeavors, please feel free to do that. I love the way no matter what we start talking about, it always goes towards Halloween candles. It's kind of funny. It's kind of funny. It's silly. Why don't we talk about Christmas candles like the way we talk about Halloween candles? I arguably like them just as much. I think when you get to this time of year, we're so starved of the holidays. And it doesn't help that when you get into the summer state of mind, you're just in the mood to celebrate. Celebrate anything. Like you could celebrate getting takeout food because in the summer you just want to have fun and just do things. And yet our favorite holidays, most of our favorite holidays are so far away. So I think that naturally candle folk, we just revert to talking about Halloween candles because it's the nearest thing we can celebrate when it comes to big candle holidays. Candle holidays. It's amazing that that's really what it comes down to. Um, um, Doug has to run, but great chatting and seeing some of you folks here. Have a great one. Thank you so much, Doug, for swinging by. It truly is a treat to see you when you drop in. I've noticed that some people become annoyingly artificial after a while. What is that in reference to? It's probably something I said, but I can't I can't remember. Trek Matt says, I've only just joined the live stream, sadly, but I hope the move is going well. It is. Thank you so much. Matthew, the proud owner of my 2018 Witch City Wicks Halloween collection. See, I'm forgetting about that. Yes. So by and large, I'm remembering, of course, Matt, that I sent you candles, but I forgot specifically that it was that collection. So Matthew has the entire collection. This is a very important collection because Halloween 2016, I did my first Witch City Wicks candle, and I met Liz Fraser. And then 2017, I did a Witch City Wicks video. Did I not? Or maybe I didn't. I didn't do a full Halloween. I didn't. I did an interview with Witch City Wicks in Salem, another interview in her shop. But 2018, I did a full collection video of Witch City Wicks. And I may say it differently if I go back and watch the video, but in my memory, I still feel like that was one of the most successful candle videos, edited candle videos I ever did. I just was really thoroughly happy with my evaluations. It was a little bit rehearsed. I mean, I knew those candles very well, so I wasn't like making anything up on the spot, but I felt like it wasn't one of those videos where I was just nauseatingly just listing hundreds of thousands of things that I'm picking up on the candle or things that it smells like. They were nice, concise length evaluations. And the whole collection, there was not a weak spot in the entire collection. And I purposely never burned any of those 2018 candles because they were the ones on my shelf. They were the ones, if I had visitors into my studio, those are the examples that I would share with people. I'm like, this is Witch City Wicks. You have to smell these candles. So I'm so happy Matthew has given them a new home. If you haven't already, you should send a nice photo at some point so I can pop it up. Because I know Virgil sent me some photos. Several of you folks have sent me photos of my candles in their new home. I should throw them up on Instagram. Why not? Why not? Oh, okay. I got your message, Deal. I understand. Thank you. Um, Stephanie asked, coffee content. Is there any coffee content? I mean, hey, look where I am. This is the coffee capital of the US, is it not? Um, absolutely. Absolutely. I just haven't, I guess I just really haven't thought it through yet. But I did bring a lot of my coffee equipment, and I say equipment because it is my equipment. I have at least a few of my Chemexes. I have a few of my French presses. I do need to buy, I sold my coffee grinder. It's not just a coffee grinder. It was a big ordeal. I took coffee very seriously. I still do, but I just figured it was better to sell out of my stuff and repurchase at a later date than trying to move it across country. But as far as like, excuse me, going out and uh, finding coffee roasters and things like that, of course, um, I just think I'm at a point in video making where like I don't like to sneak around with the camera without permission. I like getting permission. I like speaking with the proprietor, the owner, or the manager of a shop before I try to sneak footage inside. I try to do things on the up and up like that, and it's always just a much more pleasurable experience for me. So I think that's what I'll start doing, and I think coffee makes great content for autumn. So if I can just start go out and start collecting footage at coffee roasters without the intention of actually this is for a video, just like if I just get a bunch of footage, then I can edit that footage into nice little video packages that I can release from time to time. But I thought because of recent dates, because of the modern times, I've been drinking so much inexpensive coffee. I mean, I've been living without, like I said, my coffee grinder. I've been living when I was working, as I've said, I was working so many hours a week back January through May, where I just really wasn't able to enjoy making my coffee in the morning. So I was just drinking very inexpensive coffee to save money. Um, but I've learned a lot in that period. I've learned a lot about what are some interesting ways to have a really good cup of coffee, but keep the weekly price very low, very affordable. So maybe that might be an interesting thing to address um, for a future coffee video. There's so many contraptions out there to make coffee now. I briefly, on my videos, I talked about the Nano Press, which is a portable espresso maker. Espresso. Um, there's even very affordable devices, like very entry level, affordable, like espresso machines that are, again, are not making what I would call authentic espresso, but good enough that they should be discussed and talked about. I have the AeroPress, which is not anything new, but it's just, if you haven't seen it, it's like a big syringe. And again, you're trying to mimic the qualities of making espresso, or at least an exceptional cup of like pour over coffee. But it might be interesting to kind of revisit some of these less extravagant ways of brewing coffee, but also talking about different coffee options, like affordable coffee. I'll give you a tip just off the top of my head. I didn't know what to expect, but on several occasions, I ordered Amazon Fresh. Some of you are going to cringe when I'm saying this. Not that there's anything wrong with Amazon, but like it's so against my coffee religion to be ordering coffee that's like doesn't have a roast date on the bag, but they were whole beans. I ordered Amazon Fresh 2 pound bags of whole bean coffee, and I can fully, without question, without being self conscious in any way, say that if you're on a budget and you can, like maybe you buy a really nice bag of coffee once or twice a month, but like you can't afford to be drinking like expensive coffee or even just average price coffee, which is still quite high. If you can't afford to be drinking every day. Amazon Fresh, this is not a sponsorship, trust me, um, is a really really great option because if you're a Prime member, you get your bag in 2 days, sometimes in just 24 hours. They're whole beans. You can still grind them. There's no guarantee of when they're actually roasted, but by doing pour overs, and I can kind of get a sense of the age of the actual roast on the coffee. And it's probably about a month. They're probably about a month old. Usually I don't like to touch whole bean coffee if it's over 2 weeks old, roasted after 2 weeks. But it's a very serviceable coffee, especially if you're a milk and sugar or a milk alternative or a sweetener coffee drinker. You can hide a lot of mistakes with milk and sugar. So it might be an interesting thing for us to explore. Thank you for asking that question. Molly is kind of backing that up by saying, yes, I would love to see some coffee content with tips for beginner coffee enthusiasts. Yeah, you guys kind of got me thinking about. I'm drinking a cup of coffee right now, but other than having some coffee throughout the day, I've been away from the passion for so long, and I really, when I get into coffee, I'm a madman about it. Like, and yeah, talk about it. I'm the perfect spot for it. When I get a PO box for the channel, I still have not got a new PO box. What would be great is maybe it might be great to do a series where we can orchestrate you folks from different areas of the country or the world sending me a very small sample of coffee, not like a bag of coffee, but a very, just affordable, even if it's just a sandwich bag of coffee, or a little brown paper bag, which would be better than a sandwich bag. But this might be a good way to collaborate with each other. So this way I can taste more coffee from different areas and keep it affordable, because as you know, with shipping and a full bag, usually it's like 12-ounce bag of coffee, it can be like $25 if you're having that shipped from different roasters throughout the country. Of course, I would take care of the Seattle area. I want to see if make sure I got everyone's questions. This is, but I don't know. I feel like I started this live with a little bit of like I started live and I was talking about my journey. I'm like, oh my God, like I'm going to be putting everyone to sleep. But something kind of clicked in me. I think you guys kind of picked my mood up a little bit. I appreciate that so much. See, I need you guys. Matthew says, he was talking to Virgil, but Matthew says, I was lucky enough to be sent some of the homemade wax cubes too that Virgil made. Also, what would be great, like, how about, not putting you on the spot, Matthew, but like maybe in situations where if I talk about a candle on my video and then we do a giveaway and I could send the product to someone who won the giveaway, but how great would it be if we could have other folks create short little videos of their kind of their evaluation of their product, or just their quick thoughts, and that they could send me that footage and I could edit it down and kind of splice it in to additional edited video that I'm working on. Matthew also says, Shane, there is a bag of local coffee I came across that I would like to send you. Um, Fantastic. I'll be in touch. I'm interested to know what that is. The coffee you sent last time was incredible. And it was fun, very fun, Matthew, because I actually got to share it with some family, which was an added bonus. A coffee flight taste test. Oh, man. How I'd be so excited. Like, I haven't had a flight of beverages in front of me in such a long time. Keep in mind, this is something I used to do daily. Um, but what would be greater than that is, I think, with the reason why I've never really did a coffee flight or a wine flight on any of my videos is because I would have to do it myself. You know what I mean? Like, I would know what's in every glass. I did do it once. One of my early videos, I did a soda pop tasting with my sister-in-law, and but that was different. We knew what we were drinking, but like, maybe I can talk to Rebekah, and what we could do is have a flight, create a flight of coffee or anything fun, whether it be soda or wine or whatever. And this way it could be a mystery for me. I don't know what's in every glass because I would like to actually test. I haven't been put on the spot in a long time when it comes to beverages, especially wine. I mean, I really haven't been in a tasting situation for, it's embarrassed to say, but like 7 years. I haven't been in like a industry tasting for at least 7 years when it comes to wine. But there was a point where I was pretty good at identifying what was in the glass without knowing about it. Maybe identifying exactly what's in the glass. Maybe that's not the best way to put it, but being able to talk about the glass, the qualities, talk about the age, talk about most likely where the grapes are coming from, talk about the actual grape itself, be able to accurately give information on the wine without knowing anything about what is inside the glass. See if the Pacific smells different than the Atlantic. Well, I've lived on the West Coast before, and I can say, yeah, I mean, I think it's not just an East Coast, West Coast thing. Every beach, seems to have a unique aroma, and it changes rapidly. I guess I spent a lot of time years ago, the early days of spending time out in Los Angeles. I used to spend like time in like Santa Monica. Um, but the majority of my time on the coast, on the West Coast, was in Sonoma County in Northern California. And I still am just so blown away by how different the, everything was. Because I was kind of, when it came to the beach anyway, a Jersey Shore kid. The beach to me, maybe not the Jersey Shore specifically, but the Jersey Shore as in like Atlantic City. Atlantic City was something that my mother and I and my family, we would do frequently when we were kids. I mean, that was the beach to me. And it's just amazing. Yeah, I mean, but even if you just go up to Maine, the coast of Maine, the coast of Connecticut, I feel like they all have uh, aesthetic, extreme aesthetic differences in feels, but aromas as well. Coney Island. I spent a lot of time down there. I filmed one of my first film that I made in film school was shot on the beach of Coney Island. And it was new to me at that time. And I was just so blown away by the vastness of the sand and the color of the sand, how different it was than I was used to. And of course, the smell. The smell is a little bit different. Um, you know, it's funny. Dale always brings up Lake George, and I was just thinking about Lake George yesterday. I was actually talking about Lake George earlier in this live. Lake George, for you folks who are not familiar, how do you say it? It's upstate New York, but it's in the, say, in the Catskill, or is it in the Catskills or is it the Adirondacks? That tells you how much I understand my geography. It's still, I think, in the Catskills. Um, he's asking if there's anything out here that reminds me of Lake George. I haven't discovered anything like that yet, but I would imagine it would. There's a similarity. Like even though Lake George is in the Catskills, I think the Adirondacks have more of a different skyline, different vantage point, right? Different horizon, and that the trees have the extreme points, and the mountains are angular and very sharp, and like they're very photogenic, very Bob Ross at times, and uh, there's that angular aesthetic to the Pacific Northwest that I really like, where the Catskills seem very round and rolling, which is pretty too. But I hope I find, there's something that's here that I don't know why I don't bring it up, but if you type in, as I do all the time with Google, like the best destinations in the US, like best, most unique places to stop off, or if you type in what are some of the what is the best, or like, how do I say it? Christmas destinations. Like I am the kind of person, I even did some research when I was driving to see if there were any like Christmas theme parks, amusement parks, gift shops, Christmas themed hotels along my way. I know it's almost summer, and that's where my mind was when I was driving across country. But I'm just one of those people. Like I like Christmas themed things. But if you type in like the greatest Christmas destinations in the U.S., of course you're going to get a bunch of places in New England. You're going to get um, places in the Midwest too. I think Ohio and Michigan. Not that that's Midwest, but you know what I mean. Like they're Tennessee, as I know, is a big state, especially with like Gatlinburg being so close, and Pigeon Forge, Smoky Mountain region. But in Washington State, they have a town called Leavenworth, which, if you haven't heard of it, it is miraculous. I don't need to exaggerate in the slightest bit. It is a town. It is not a park. There is no admission. It is a town that at some point in history adopted the idea of, let's turn our town into like a fun, family friendly Bavarian village. You can walk around this town, and there's shops and there's restaurants, there's places to actually buy groceries, like markets, there's clothing stores, there's an assortment of hotels, motels, Airbnbs, bed and breakfasts, inns that all stick to this Bavarian, German Bavarian village theme, and it's gorgeous. Now, just on its own, any other time of year, it's an amazing thing. I've only been there in the summer, and it was an amazing experience. It's a beautiful Christmas store, huge Christmas store. I love that. But during the holiday season, from November, December into January, they celebrate Christmas. And I've never been there, but I've seen video, I've seen photos, and the weather is quite extreme. It's very snowy, very snowy. I mean, think Santa's Village snowy. And they have events, they have parades, they have Christmas music and decorations. They truly celebrate Christmas in a typical Bavarian, nostalgic, picturesque way, and it's a very expensive thing to partake in because it's every hotel sells out completely. They're booked up months and months in advance for the Christmas season. But I'm not going to let that stop me. Like I knew as soon as I visited this place, Leavenworth, and I saw the magic and like, wow, this is fully immersive. I mean, just as immersive to me as like something like Disneyland. It's around you so fully in a 360-degree way, where you feel so immersed in this place that I realize I have to do this at Christmas. I just have to figure out a way. How do I get around spending boatloads of money? Again, having a great hotel, motel would be fun, but that's not why I want to go. I want to go to document the experience outside. So I don't know. Maybe I'll go this year. How could I not if I'm here for the day at least? But maybe in the coming years, I could work something out, like a collaboration with a bed and breakfast or an inn, a hotel, where there could be cross promotion. Where if like maybe if I stayed for a few days or even just one night, I could make a video, but also, promote where I'm staying too, which I've done before, and it always works out well. I don't feel like it's ever forced or an advertisement. I always have fun where I go. Um, so Leavenworth, if you're deeply, if even in the months of the summer, if you like are that person that's loves to escape to Christmas or imagines themselves in a nighttime Christmas village, or like what I do, I always imagine myself on like like the Orient Express, going through the mountains, snow-covered mountains. Like I don't know what it is, but those are like snow-covered areas are, and Christmas especially, as an overlay. It's like my comfort, my happy place. Oh, and I do remember that brochure, Matt. I do remember that. And I actually think I recently came across it while I was doing research as well. Um, Stephanie says we have a beautiful Christmas village here in Lake Havasa, Havosu. I'm so Havasu City. I'm butchering names. Lake Havasu. Why? It's a simple word. Why can't I pronounce it? I read every day of my life, and yet I cannot pronounce anything. Uh, the city in Arizona, we have a home of the London Bridge and the English Channel. No real snow, but they do ice skating rink here in the desert. That's really fun. Arizona is another place I would love to go. Speaking of wine, yeah, I mean, I've always wanted to go to the Jerome region and wine, not that I think that there's plenty of great wine there, but there's some. Um, and it seems like a really fun area. Good to see you, Shane. Good to see you too. Thank you. Hey, Shane, James from Detroit. Good luck on your new adventure in the great Northwest. Thank you very much, James. Uh, Maine, just in general, is an amazing place for the holidays, and it was one of the things I really wanted to start exploring. I kind of fell in love with New Hampshire, and there was so many things I wanted to do there. But then this past year, I really rekindled my love of reading Stephen King, and I just it kind of made me realize, why don't I explore Maine a bit more? And I've kind of become like fond of spending so much time there in literature. But I have researched Maine and like things to do during the holidays, and you're right. There's just a lot going on, like a lot of really special experiences. It always worries me about the weather. I don't like to drive in bad weather, but it's kind of unavoidable. Oh, look at this. Juicy Couture Collection, Sam. We are in Seattle if you need some friends. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Christmas Prelude. Jerome is amazing. So you've experienced it. Have you had a chance to explore Algonquin, Maine? I haven't really done any exploring in Maine. Though I was going to drive into Maine last December when I was in Santa's Village, but it's so close, but it's such a daunting, not the drive isn't daunting, the hours are daunting. After what I just did, it seems like nothing. But I remember from where I was staying in New Hampshire, I wanted to go to like the Bangor region to see if I could maybe do a video on like vague Stephen King locations, like locations that weren't in the movies, but locations that are mentioned in the books. And I just didn't end up doing that drive because of many factors. The weather, December, you just have such a short window of sunlight hours. Um, I've been to Portland a few times, concerts and so forth when I was younger. I don't think I've really had a chance to discover a place in Maine, get out of the car and really learn about it, or definitely not film. But, you know, like I said, maybe I need to plan a New England trip once a year, at least once a year. Um, Rose says, "Hey, I'm late. Just got here, and I'm sorry to break it to you, but I think we should wrap things up. This has been a nice, lengthy live. We haven't done a live this long in a long time. We're over 2 hours, but I thoroughly enjoyed this. Hey, I know we didn't talk about much today. I didn't have any candles with me, uh, but I think I had like a lot on my plate, a lot on my chest, and I just thank you for just like chilling out and just be able to talk, hang out with me, or hang out with each other on this, which here, a beautiful Sunday. I wish I could have taken this outside. I just don't know. I wasn't sure about the Wi-Fi connection. Um, I apologize, Rose. But as always, thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate you more than you probably think. And those of you who've really helped chip in to not only, help me get across country, but there's a lot of you who just really, went above and beyond, and actually made the experience a little bit more comfortable than it would have been. Um, just what, I wish I could say that I filmed tons of video and there's going to be tons of videos being posted. It just wasn't right. Emotionally, it wasn't the right time for me to be filming. I wasn't in the mood to even be having a good time. It was a very emotional experience for me. I keep saying emotional, but it was emotional. But also very exhausting because I wanted to make the trip very fast. However, the experience of driving across country, not that it's much experience, but I kind of have a better understanding of how I feel driving day after day like that consecutively. And if I will plan another cross country trip, I actually have to do another cross country trip because I've left a bunch of my stuff in storage, and at some point, whether it's 6 months or a year, I should get that stuff out of storage and put it in a different place, or move it across country. So there will be another cross country trip. And I think the way to do it is to not, for me personally, is to not drive and film a little bit every day. I just don't see that working for me. I know other people on YouTube do that. They drive like 5 hours a day and they film for like 5 hours a day. They edit in the hotel and they just keep driving. Congratulations to them. I don't think I would work healthy in that way. I think the best thing for me to do is plan on getting to a destination and taking a day instead of driving at all. Spend a day in that location and just devote the whole day to filming. So this way, there's not this constant keep track of the time because I have to make hours. So when I do drive across country again, I think that's what I'm going to do. Instead of doing it in, how many days did I do it in? I did it in 5 days. Instead of doing it in 5 days, maybe I could stretch it out to like 9 days with, 4 days of just devoted to filming. And it'll be more expensive that way, of course. And, with work schedules, it's always complicated. But, as I've said before, it's something I always wanted to do. I did it, but I didn't really do it the right way for filming. So we'll do it again. I just hopefully you guys are not too disappointed that I don't have like tons of adventures from this particular journey, but there's plenty of new adventures from Washington State, from the Seattle region and beyond. I'm looking to be inspired, so always share your ideas with me. Share them in the comments, any way you feel is appropriate. I'd love to hear your ideas. Just don't get impatient with me if I don't get back to you right away, or if you don't hear from me at all. I usually read everything that's sent my way. It's just I am a mess when it comes to correspondence, as many of you know. But I look forward to the future. I want to thank you once again, all of you, for joining me again today. And I will be seeing you soon. But until then, remember to always live enthusiastically. Have a great Sunday, folks. We'll see you real soon. Just said that, and I said it again.